In Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks, we saw a lot of good stuff. Stuff like Anthony Edwards scoring out of the post, Rudy Gobert Euro-stepping his way into a layup, and Scott Foster mocking a flop. It was the first win of the series for the Timberwolves, and there were a few key reasons why they were able to get the win. The first of which was that they put Luka Doncic in basketball hell, with Jaden McDaniels being generally annoying and long and being more physical than he had in past games. Getting under Luka's skin was key to the game plan, and it had to make Luka's blood boil when Gobert was able to post him up a couple of times offensively, both times drawing shooting fouls. Gobert was also able to make his presence felt on defense against Kyrie Irving, both in pick-and-roll action as well as general rim protection, and Kyrie struggled mightily at the rim. Kyrie also made an inexplicable turnover in the clutch when pressured in pick-and-roll action by Gobert. Another reason the Timberwolves won this game was that Karl-Anthony Towns had a resurgence, and while he did hit his threes, what I was impressed by was his aggression driving to the rim. The Timberwolves were able to get him going using him in pick-and-roll action with Rudy Gobert. Defending two big men in pick-and-roll is difficult, especially since Cat plays more like a guard. This play starts with a pick-and-roll between Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, and you can see PJ Washington get in position to tag Rudy Gobert on the roll, except it's not a true pick-and-roll. It's a veer action, which means Rudy Gobert is now setting a pin down for Karl-Anthony Towns. He curls off this pin down and flows into pick-and-roll action with Gobert, playing 2-on-1 against Maxi Kleber. So if Kleber commits too much to Karl-Anthony Towns, it's an easy lob to Gobert. This gave Karl-Anthony Towns just enough room to get some layups. Here's the same action again, and it shows how the threat of Cat's perimeter shooting enables the Wolves to create 2-on-1 situations at the rim. I'd look to see the Wolves run more of this to keep Towns engaged. And here's a Mike Conley-Rudy Gobert empty corner pick and roll where Gobert almost gets himself into trouble on the roll, but Cat is able to cut for a layup. Okay, now let's talk about the Anthony Edwards-Rudy Gobert pick and roll. One coverage the Mavericks like to use to defend this is going under the screen. Minnesota has figured out the counter against this coverage is to have Gobert flip the screen and run the pick and roll going the other direction. This typically results in the Mavericks going over the screen and getting clipped the next time, which gets good results for the Timberwolves. On the most important possession of the game for Minnesota, the Mavericks went under not once but twice, but Gobert kept flipping the screen, and eventually Ant was able to get separation to hit the dagger pull-up. Here's one more example of this counter. Let's go over some more plays the Timberwolves ran. Here's a play the Timberwolves run every game called STS Flare or Screen the Screener Flare. It starts with a guard running pick and pop action with Karl-Anthony Towns, forcing the defense to make a decision on whether to contain dribble penetration or follow Towns to the perimeter. After the pick and pop action, Towns comes off of a flare screen set usually by Rudy Gobert. And this can either get him a three-point look or flow into pick and roll action with Gobert. In this case, the Mavericks don't contain dribble penetration, and Conley is able to get the layup. Here the Timberwolves run another empty corner pick and roll with Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert. The key to empty corner pick and rolls is that since there is not an offensive player in the corner, there is no defender available to help from that spot. This limits what the defenses can do, and Gafford has to stick with Gobert here, giving Conley room to shoot the floater. Here we have a Spain pick and roll with Anthony Edwards, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert. Spain pick and roll is another screen the screener action where there will be a regular pick and roll and then a back screen for the roll man. In this case, Conley slips the back screen rather than setting it, and Ant snakes his dribble, drawing three defenders. Both Mike Conley and Jaden McDaniels are open, and McDaniels gets a three. Here we have a nice set from the Timberwolves where Nickeil Alexander-Walker appears to be coming off of a double off-ball screen, but then curls around the first screen so that Naz Reid can instead come off of the two off-ball screens. You can see the attention being paid to Naz Reid here, so someone has to cover Gobert on the roll. Kyrie is in help position, so his man Nickeil Alexander-Walker ends up open for a three. Here's another example of the Timberwolves making great use of flare screens, as we have Anthony Edwards and Kyle Anderson running a pick and roll, and Anderson catches PJ Washington falling asleep as Nickeil Alexander-Walker relocates to the perimeter. The flare screen frees up Nickeil for a three. In addition to these awesome offensive sets by the Timberwolves, they also did some smart things defensively. One of those things was hedging Kyrie Irving's pick and rolls. Hedging is when the screener's defender will aggressively jump out to impede the path of the ball handler, but then retreat back to his man. This coverage works well in this situation because it helps to stop Kyrie Irving while allowing open shots from a lesser threat in PJ Washington. On this play, we see that Cat gets beat off the dribble, so Gobert is forced to help off of Gafford, which usually spells trouble for the Timberwolves. But this time, Conley is able to help the helper and get the steal. In addition to some smarter coverage, the Timberwolves also just played more aggressive and energetic defense, and it led to more steals and blocks. This is especially helpful for a team like the Timberwolves, whose offense is prone to slump, but their defense can help to fuel their offense. Thanks for watching this video, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm.